All right, as our waiting room is slowly entering our webinar, I'll do a short introduction to our topic today of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. So for those of you who have not yet met me, my name is Nusha Fine. I'm the MMIE Program Director and an Assistant Professor at Smith Business School at Queen's University. And I'm thrilled to have some fabulous people joining me today to discuss innovation and entrepreneurship and how that is handled in our MMIE program. So today with me, I have JP Scherer, Associate Director for the Center for Business Venturing, who is also one of our fabulous MMIE advisors. I also have Norman Musengimana with us. He's a Business Development Manager at Kingston Economic Development Corporation, and he is an MMIE alum. So he was one of the first MMIE cohorts to graduate. With us also is Sarah Thomas, who some of you may have met through your application process, or some of you will meet as you apply for MMIE. So she's our application advisor, and she will help you through the journey of getting enrolled into the MMIE program. Before I kick off our discussion with our panelists, I just want to quickly revisit MMIE and what makes us the program we are today and how we combine innovation and entrepreneurship. So we pride ourselves in 4 key components of MMIE that differentiate us from anything else in the market. 1, we provide you with a customized learning journey. So you go through a set of 6 core courses and 2 project courses, and you tailor the journey through those courses to whatever you aim to achieve in MMIE. You either can build a venture process and launch a venture. You can do a corporate innovation project. You can build an internship within that space with a corporate partner that we provide. You can design your life and identify where you want to go in your career, or you can focus on your research as well and build a dissertation as your final outcome. So it's very customized towards what you're wanting to achieve. And we achieve that through effective integration of theory and practice. So what we do in our courses, we guide you through the overarching concepts around launching a venture, around corporate innovation and innovation ecosystems. And then we dig deeper into the different steps that guide you through the process of achieving the outcome you set yourself. And one of the key advantages that are brought within the program is a strong coaching model. So as I said, JP, next to the fact that he's Associate Director of the Center for Business Venturing, he is also one of our MMIE advisors who works with students one-on-one to get them through the journey of MMIE. And what we're most proud of is the fact that we are an extremely diverse cohort. This year in MMIE 2022, we have 25 different countries across the world represented from a variety of different disciplines, including engineering, arts, science, marketing, you name it, we probably got it. Just to set the stage of where we are so far in terms of achieving outcomes with the students, I want to point out we are not an incubator or accelerator, we are an educational program, but we thrive in providing you the toolkit to get you to actually launching. So in the 7 years that the program has existed, we've launched or supported a launch of 137 startups, and we've achieved, or our students and alumni have achieved 102 promotions within innovation spaces, from product managers, product owners, to innovation strategists and consultants. Within that space, we also launched 40 social enterprises, and the progression of careers within the innovation space ranges from ventures within large organizations, innovation ecosystems, R&D departments, and so on. But let me stop talking there for a second and again introduce you to our fabulous 2 panelists that are going to touch on how the story of innovation and entrepreneurship kind of go throughout the MMIE journey and what it means for when you enter our MMIE learning space. So I want to first introduce you to JP Scherer, as I said, Associate Director in the Center for Business Venturing. and our MMIE advisors. JP, maybe you tell us a bit about yourself and your background and how you got into MMIE.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Nusha. And it's a great pleasure to join you today to speak about MMIE and the experience that I've had, certainly working with the students and being part of the program for at least the last 5 years. In fact, I think I was involved just 1 year after its inception. I'm currently Associate Director for the Centre for Business Venturing, which really in a nutshell is putting the ecosystem together to support entrepreneurship, intrapreneurship, and innovation across our students and our alumni. Originally from Glasgow in Scotland, I do not have a linear career. I was in sport and recreation. I went into higher education at Glasgow University. I then ended up in economic development at Kingston Economic Development Corporation for 7 years as Director of Business Development. And then I ended up at the school where I've been for the last 7 years, starting off as career coaching and then moving into the Entrepreneurship Centre. In Scotland, I ran a swim academy, which was the main mission and the vision around it was simple. It was no kid should ever drown. And it was based on teaching, developing, and high performance. So teachers and then through to high performance coaching, which was very successful. So entrepreneurial experience, and I'm willing, very, very happy to be talking about some of that experience and how it blends itself in terms of the future that you may hold coming into the program and what it may hold afterwards. So look forward to further chat.
Thanks very much, JP. And our second panelist is Norman Musengimana, the Business Development Manager at Ketco, our MMIE alumni, and he also tried his role as an advisor in MMIE. He's one of our biggest MMIE supporters, but Norman, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Thank you so much, Nusha, for this opportunity, and really always excited to talk about MMIE and how it has helped me to transform my life or reposition my career in a new country. So I was born in Rwanda. For those who don't know Rwanda is in the East African region of Africa. And we have gone through a history of war, the genocide. If you're interested to learn more about Rwanda, you can Google a movie called Hotel Rwanda. It was played by or acted by people in Hollywood. It's a really fantastic movie that takes you through the experience. We went through 100 days of craziness in our country. So as a result of that, I ended up becoming a refugee. I lived in probably 6 countries from 1994 to 1996-7. And then I ended up settling in Kenya, where I finished my undergrad as an unregistered regional refugee. And then when I finished my program, I tried to get jobs in Kenya. It was very, very difficult if you don't have your paper, like identity cards, passports, and everything. After 6 months of doing what we call tamarking, looking for jobs endlessly, I decided to go back to my country. So I went to Rwanda. I started my career working in the private sector federation, which is probably like the Chamber of Commerce. And then after about 5 years working there, I resigned from my job, started my first startup, ended up working in South Sudan on a project with the World Bank, Price Waterhouse, and the Confederation of Danish Industries. 2015, I wanted a kind of a complete shift of my career. I had tried to come to Canada before. In 2000, it didn't go well. And so this time I was looking to come as an international student because I had watched a lot of YouTube videos. And they were talking about how when you come as an international student, it's easier to get a job. It's easier to have the opportunity to learn about the people, the culture, get into the ecosystem, and set yourself up for success. So I was looking for a program for my university or a college that is not mediocre. I wanted to be among the best, so to say. And I looked up Queen's University. I saw that Elon Musk spent about 2 years here. I'm like, oh, that's a South African hero who's changing the entire landscape of entrepreneurship. I'm like, maybe this is a good university. And then the further I looked, I realized his brother finished at Smith School of Business. I'm like, oh, amazing. Then I looked up Kimbo Musk, what he's doing, interesting projects, interesting stuff. And I was like, maybe this is the program. And then I went on Google. I Googled other entrepreneurship innovation programs. And I looked at the faculty compared, and I realized Queen's has probably a more solid program. And that's how I ended up applying to MMIE. When I got into the program, lucky enough, my first advisor was JP. So when you see me working at the Kingston Economic Development Corporation, JP worked there as well for 7 years. Now I've been there for 2 years. So there is a way history has its way of preparing you and probably putting you across people, systems, services, institutions, programs like MMIE to help you shape your career going forward. So during MMIE, what I can say is that during MMIE, I actually developed a social enterprise, which I ran for the past 4 years. I just killed it like 3 months ago. That's a different conversation. But what I think, ending my introduction, is that probably this is one of the best decisions I've ever gotten right in my life. So if you are sitting out there and wondering, oh, is this right? Is this, don't ask those questions anymore. Start planning what can you do when you get into this program, because a year is very short, it goes very fast. You want to make sure that you maximize the number of the people, nationalities, backgrounds of the people in your classroom, the faculty you have been given, which is fantastic, the coaching programs you are being put through, all of those experiences. Thank you.
And Norman, you kind of started to mention a bit of the journey that you've had. How did MMIE influence your path? And how does intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship fit within that scope? Because you said, I started a venture, I also did a social enterprise, and now you're working within a corporate space. Can you talk a bit about your journey and how intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship fit within?
So thank you, Nusha. I was actually supposed to be, I think, in the 2016 cohort, but for some reason it was oversubscribed. There were too many students. So I was put on a waiting list, and that's why I joined in 2017. But when I joined the program, some of the things that I saw happen that I was not expecting as a person when I was joining, because these sessions were not there at the time. I remember entering my class and looking at the people who are sitting in the class, looking at the quality, the history, what they had achieved. Some of them had already shook hands with Prince Charles. Like, some of them had already run like big projects. Like, you get into that program. When I grew up in my own region, if I go a little bit back, people used to tell me that I'm crazy, that I think too much, that I am too ambitious to succeed. A lot of like things that like put you like out of the normal people. And when I got into the program, I realized actually I'm one of the normal ones, because I realized there are people who are crazier than I have been told in the past. So that was kind of mind-blowing, and I wanted to kind of make sure that I connect with everyone from an authentic perspective, trying to understand what are their stories, what are their backgrounds, why are they in the program. And right there, I knew I'm in the right program. And then there was the coaching programs. I was matched with JP. I had access to all the professors. I wanted to maximize each one of those opportunities. And so what I did is I used to go to offices of every professor. JP, I think at one point he was tired, I was like, this guy, 3 times in 1 week, because you are trying to get the best out of these great people that you have. And then MMIE, through MMIE, I got introduced to the Queen's Innovation Center, which is a program that helps you to set up and start your own entrepreneurship initiative. I want to develop a social enterprise that would kind of put in place a scalable entrepreneurship program to help developing countries cope with the unemployment challenges that they are facing. So I did that and continued to study while setting it up, getting all the services, all the advice, sometimes seed money. MMIE as a program gave me $5,000. The Queen's Innovation Center program gave me $5,000. I think I won another $4,000 in another seed funding, in another pitch competition. So there are all of these things happening at the same time while I'm still working on my coursework, making sure my assignments are delivered on time, meeting all these people that I have to meet, being in Kingston, because I came to live in Kingston when I started the program, gave me the opportunity to also kind of meet like the Chamber of Commerce, the Kingston Economic Development Corporation, I met the mayor when I was still like in my first 3 years, St. Lawrence College, like all these big institutions that are located in this community. And so in a brief, it's a long story. I have a lot of stuff to talk about, but in a snapshot, I think what MMIE gave me was the opportunity to learn about Canada, how Canadians do things, how systems work in this country, and then also help open the doors, like do the introductions to some of the people that I wanted to meet. Some of them were alumni of the program who are helping me to get into the ecosystem. Some of them were coaches and mentors like JP faculty. I remember one of the engineering faculty members who was teaching us design thinking. She wrote an introduction to a Canadian professor who was in a Ugandan university, Makerere University. If you're from Africa, you would know Makerere is one of the top 5 universities in Africa. And she wrote an email to him and said, I've met an interesting gentleman from Rwanda. He's working on entrepreneurship. This is his story. What can you do with him? And that email introduced me to Cameron Hughes. Even today, we still talk, we still exchange ideas. He still comes to Kingston to meet me and so on and so forth. So it set me up for success. That's the summary of everything that I can say.
Excellent. Thank you, Norman. And it seems JP was part of your success journey. JP, what if we look at it from the other side, from the advisor perspective? How do you look and approach MMIE and then innovation, intrapreneurship, and entrepreneurship within that space?
Yeah, for sure. And, thanks for all the kind words, Norman. I think it was 4 times a week you were in the office because you got a loyalty card for that. But it was a great pleasure. And, it goes back to something that Norman said there in terms of, the decision to come to our program and the decision to come to MMIE. There's so many additional people out there. So if you're thinking about, what questions are you asking yourself? I often say to students, when I'm working with them, what's the hesitation? Because if we can understand the hesitations as to why you're looking to make a decision, and we can understand the questions you still have, we have the ability to be able to answer those and to be able to, uncover them. At the end of the day, I think it's really about your why. This is about your why and the heart and soul of why are you here today? Why have you applied for the program or in the decision making of the program? And once you start to understand that, I think it starts to really uncover what the pathway could look like. Now, some of the things that I see, when I'm speaking to people, is that they get stuck on making a decision about whether they're coming to the program and they want to go entrepreneurship. I don't have a venture. I don't have an idea. Oh my goodness, I'm going to survive. What if I'm pushed into it and I don't like it? Or on the other side, I want to go into corporate innovation. What does the world out there look like? What does a career path look like? What I say to them is to step back from that for a moment and understand that you're coming to an educational institution who's going to provide you a program with education in 3 different streams. Now, if you're weighing this up against other programs, I want you to think through this lens. You're getting education in management, you're getting education in innovation, and you'll get education in entrepreneurship. From that, it's building an inventory of education, knowledge, insight, experience that allows you then to make those decisions along the way as to whether you want to go into new venture, into entrepreneurship, whether you want to go and start your own business, whether you want to become a co-founder, whether you want to do a side hustle, but also allows you to decision-making skills to decide whether you want to go into startup or whether you want to go into innovation world or into the entrepreneurial world. And those decisions don't have to be made on day one. They actually don't have to be made before you actually get there, because the coaches and the advisors will help you to understand where you're going in that pathway. But remember, it's education, management, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Often people, think about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship when they hear that word of founder, co-founder, I'm running my own business. So from my own experience, all of my experience, and even going back to sport and recreation, I ran my own business, but inside of that, I worked at Glasgow University. In the sport and recreation, I was overseeing sport and recreation, healthcare, chaplaincy, part of the library, we cross-subsidized. That's not the important part. The important part is I was in a corporate bureaucratic organization. Glasgow University is 600 years old. There was 10,000 staff. It was 35,000 students, etc. But we operated in a very entrepreneurial way. So I call it the entrepreneurial mindset. So whether you're going into entrepreneurship or not, today's world is challenging us to be able to be entrepreneurial, to be agile, to think on our feet, to come up with new ideas, to be able to shift and pivot. And I think, COVID over the last 2 years has taught a lot of organizations that that's what we need to be thinking like. So even if you just think about the mindset that you come out of an MMIE program with and the education, you've got the ability to go and do whatever you want to do. But that ability to be able to think, even in Smith School of Business, again, we're part of a larger ecosystem that has red tape, bureaucracy, policy, procedure. But one of the things that attracted me to Smith was because of the entrepreneurial mindset, the entrepreneurial thinking, the new programs, the new products, the new revenue streams, right? The ability to make impact and create amazing students who are going to go out and change the world, and the ability to be able to shift on a dime. So when you do start to think about that word entrepreneur or entrepreneurial, I want you to think across the broad base, because it doesn't matter whether you go start your business, whether you go and work in a startup, or whether you want to go and work in a corporate organization, whether it's in innovation or whether it's in manufacturing or consulting, because that foundation, that very foundation, is going to be the absolute crux of every decision you make moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you, JP. And we have 2 questions, and I'm actually going to throw one at you, JP, while I half answer it. So the question is whether a study gap plays any role in selection of the candidate, because the program getting into is clear, and the candidate finished master's degree in engineering 16 years ago. So the answer is the study gap does not play a role. Our selection criteria are typically an undergrad degree, and then we balance the candidate based on the experience and the kind of the passion and direction they're taking it within innovation and entrepreneurship. And JP, the question I'm going to throw at you is, our cohort actually comes with varied level of experience. So we have people right out of undergrad that have done potentially university incubators, but don't necessarily have the experience. And then, so our oldest and most experienced candidate this year, for example, is 56 years old with a master's degree under his belt already, but they both chose to come into the program. And you've advised both kind of, I'm going to call them types of candidates or profiles of candidates. Is there any difference, and how does that play into the mindset you've just talked about?
Everybody has chosen the program for their own individual reason. I also have the fortunate position of working across our other programs, whether it's coaching or whether it's on their capstone projects or sometimes on global business projects across our MBA suite. So I see a full range of students from all walks of life, from all different cultures and different countries, from all range of experience, some straight out of undergrad. And really, everybody, one of the quotes I'll put out there, and it's by America Freya, which says, no one holds the vision of your life but you. So you've got a reason for coming in and doing this. And I would not hesitate in terms of, am I too young? Am I too old? You're making a decision for this reason. And what we're doing is we're taking what you've got. So if you're talking about, having an engineering degree as an undergrad, I see this as almost, it's an enhancement. It's the next iteration of your life story. It's the next iteration of the vision you want to create for yourself. But what you're bringing is incredible experience in undergrad engineering. You've got a number of years of work experience, and then you're starting to wrap a management, innovation, and entrepreneurship experience to go on to the next iteration of your career. What we do say is that everybody learns from everybody. Everybody's bringing an enrichment of skills, they're bringing an enrichment experience, they've got lived experience. And I think that's the important part here. It doesn't matter, what age you are or where you're from or what your degree is. Everybody is starting on a level playing field, but the enrichment of that ecosystem of all of the knowledge and insight and the experience that comes through people's education, personal experiences, professional experiences, that's the humbling thing. So if you are hesitating in any way, I want you to step back and say, I've made this bold step to be present, to actually appear on the webinar, to understand what I want to do. And that's the first step in your journey. So whether you're the youngest or whether you're the oldest or whether you're the middle of the pack, everybody has experience to be able to learn and to be able to disseminate to other people in the cohort. And that's one of the things I'm constantly coaching people on. Is what do you bring and where do you want to go, and what do others have that you can gain in order to deepen the knowledge and experience you can take out there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, JP. There was a question directly to Norman that he answered kind of typing, but I think it would be beneficial, Norman, for you to talk a bit about at live as well. So the question was, what advice would you give for someone switching from corporate to startup in order to prep for MMIE? And what was the most difficult part of the program, and which path did you cherish the most?
That's a concentrated question. So I think, like JP said, the first thing to note is that entrepreneurship and corporate innovation, they are not really very different. The core difference that I see is that, like today, I am the business development manager for startups and entrepreneurship in Kingston. And one of my roles is try to develop that innovation ecosystem in Kingston and make sure that startups that are being created or we are attracting into this ecosystem have all the resources they require to grow and scale, including those that will probably be started by some of the MMIE graduates. So the key difference between the role, what I'm doing now, and what I used to do as a leader of my own venture is that in my own venture, I used to have all the risks, all the questions, all the answers, like that entire burden was on my head and my team. On the contrary, right now, everything that I need, I just develop like a business plan for what I want to achieve the next 3, 4, 5 years, which will be required by a startup. When I'm trying to kind of think through a new project, I use some of the tools we used to use at MMIE. Sometimes I use a business model canvas. Sometimes I use like the innovation roadmap. Some of the tools that were practical or like were really kind of help you to see things from different dimensions. But all the risks, all the resources, all the questions that I'm not able to answer, they all go back to the organization, to my employer. All the financing I need, everything that I need comes from my employer. So like the burden is on the organization to make sure that it succeeds through my work as an innovator and ecosystem builder. So that's kind of what I see being the difference. Other than that, the journey, the process, everything is the same. And the day I stopped working on business skill, the next day I started working in this job. I didn't have to, maybe because of the journey I had in MMIE, I didn't really have to think or to try to reinvent anything. I just went in and the next day I was working as if that was my previous role. So that's kind of what I can say between moving from corporate innovation to startup. They will not be a big difference, but you have to be aware that the entire risk and the entire benefits of whatever you're doing, they are coming to you, your venture and your team. The most difficult part of the program for me was a kind of an exciting part because I wanted to be part of every experience at Queen's University. Queen's University is very big. When you get here or when you get an opportunity to come here, you'll be surprised. There's a lot of things happening at the same time. So I wanted to make sure that I get involved into everything. So in the first month, I tried like 7 different student clubs. I was really introduced to the innovation, to the Queen's Innovation Center. There were other things that I've done through the Center for Venture. How do you call your program? I can't remember the name. Center for Venture, how do you call that program? Center for Venture.
Center for Business Venturing, or which one are you talking about?
Yes, that one. And then there is a lot of things going on at Queen's and at Smith. So I did kind of scan through so that I can make informed decisions on where to focus. So that was the hardest piece because you feel like whatever is going on the other side, you're kind of losing it. And you can't be part of everything because we can't be everywhere at the same time. So that was the most difficult part. For me, because of my background, academic-wise, I think it was one of the sweetest programs to navigate. It was not very complex on the assignments. I had the option to choose whether I want to do it on Norman, whether I want to do it on Elon Musk, whether I want to do it on BizSkills, which was my venture, whether I wanted to do it maybe through a company that has gone through MMIE. Like you have the choice to choose you have the power to define your journey and your experience. That's kind of how I see it. What was the last part of the question?
So the last part of the question was, what was the most difficult part, which you just answered, and what did you cherish the most?
Yeah, I think what I cherish most is the flexibility of the faculty and the coaching services in this program. And I think nimbleness, I don't know if it's nimble or if it's understanding. Like, it's the first time that someone advised me to do something and I refuse it and they accept and they help me to think through an alternative. Usually when someone told me to do something and they didn't do it, the repercussions, they were really like hefty, they were negative, or I knew that I'm going to really have to go through a tough time in the coming few days or weeks or months. But in this program, the first time that I knew that if you are informed and you're working with really great people like the people the program has put together, then you can challenge them, they can challenge you, and you will both come up with really great results.
Excellent. Thank you, Norman. And I'm kind of trying to balance Q&A and chat at the same time. So I'll quickly answer a couple of questions and JP will help me with one of them as well. So one, this is a full-time 1-year program that you can actually complete while working. That is why we don't have part-time options, because the program is structured in such a way that you can complete it while working within a year. We admit that has its own challenges and it needs exceptional time management, but about 3/4 of our student population has been working while studying. The reason this is possible is because the way the program runs. We are largely a remote program and have been such before COVID, where you run most of the courses online throughout the journey asynchronously with weekly Q&As with the professors. There are 3 residential sessions in Kingston where you have to be present, take the time off from work. So that is the conversation you would need to have with your employer. 2 weeks in August, a week in December, a week end of April, early May, where you come to Kingston, to campus, to an intensive residential boot camp, where we work on the implementation of things that we study. So there's hackathon, there's corporate innovation challenges, there's high performing teams workshops, there's negotiation workshops, there's sales pitches, and we also hold at the end of it an angel investor pitch day. Norman talked a bit about how he attracted different grants. And so there is different pitch competitions and opportunities to present your venture ideas out there. JP, would you talk a bit more about the ones coming from the Center for Business Venturing that you are involved with?
In relation to funding?
Yes, so Upstart, Dare to Dream, and other alternatives to that.
Yeah, so Upstart is our signature event at the end of the year, which is $60,000 in prize funding. It's a competition that people apply for. It's open all to students, alumni, and actual faculty who are founders or co-founders of a business. That doesn't mean to say that everybody needs to be on the team as Smith. You just have to have one co-founder or founder that's actually part of that. So that's the $60,000 prize fund. We have our Dare to Dream fund, which is $15,000. That is around about April, May that we award those. They're one-off prizes. People, again, you apply for them, put through a selection committee of alumni, and then we distill that down into four prizes. That's open to all programs, but we have had success with three MMIE alumni over the last 3 years receiving a Dare to Dream. And then for companies who are maybe in that growth phase, they've got a proven market, you've got validation. We have our Tricolor Venture Fund. And Tricolor Venture Fund is an elective that sits within our full-time MBA program. It's teaching the students in that program to think like venture capitalists. And companies apply. It's up to $150,000. You do need to have a lead funder who we then match what their funding is. But the school will provide up to $150,000. That is in return for a typical terms of agreement as a letter of intent. So it could be as a loan, it could be as for equity. It's set up and it depends on the business and depends on the investment committee. So those are some of the ways that that we can potentially provide funding. Outside of that, there is the opportunity that I'm connected to a lot of the angel networks and also the VC networks across Canada. So if I'm working with a particular company, like in everything I put out for a career, coffee chat, you reach out to these angels and VCs and you want to discover what are they looking for when you put a pitch forward. So we have connections into that ecosystem as well. But the one thing I would always say to the number one question I get asked when people walk into my office, if they're in an ideation stage or they're at an MVP stage, is I need funding. Can you connect me an angel network? And that's not the way it works. It will take conversations to uncover and discover what you're looking for. But there are additional avenues and many avenues, and Norman touched on the kind of the grants and funding as well. So you can start to stack all of these things in order to make the best funding portfolio. My goal is to try and get, when you're in that startup stage, new venture world, is to try and get you as far down the runway and to take off into the air without actually giving the most prized asset away in your business, which is equity. The moment you start to give equity away, you start to dilute your business. So my goal is to how far can we get the business without actually asking for any additional funding that's going to take equity. So there's a whole ecosystem available, funding starting with the school and then rippling out into Queens and then out into the external community. It would be on a case-by-case basis.
Excellent. Thank you, JP. And maybe following on from that one, maybe touching back on the innovation and entrepreneurship piece in this program. So there was one of the questions, and I love how you always put them one next to another. So that's why the question's going to you. How do we balance innovation and entrepreneurship in this program, or do we focus more on an entrepreneurship mindset? And if you can maybe tie it into our big capstone projects and how we manage those two.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, entrepreneurial mindset is the foundation. You develop that yourself, you grow it yourself. So entrepreneurial mindset is that moment where you come in and you start to think like an entrepreneur. And again, take me back to my earlier conversation that word doesn't mean you're going to be an entrepreneur running your own business. It just means you have the mindset of an entrepreneur and you think agile, you think, flexibility. In fact, it's going back to what Norman had said earlier in terms of that balance in entrepreneurship, innovation in that world. Is another point I would make is that the pursuit of an opportunity, this is what entrepreneurship is. It's the pursuit of an opportunity without all the resources at hand, right? In a corporate organization is the pursuit of the opportunity, but you have the resources around you, human resources, physical resources, financial resources. So if we actually split them out that way, that makes it really clear in terms of if I want all the resources around me, I got the supports and entrepreneurial environment, that's the type of environment I want to be in a corporate world. How we balance that across the program is I'll keep going back to the foundation of education, management, innovation, entrepreneurship. It gives you all of the education, it will give you the supplementary experiential learning, it will give you immersive experience across those three buckets for you then to decide what do I want to do with it. So entrepreneurial mindset will be built through that by you stretching the muscles like the brain's like a muscle. You have to continually rep it in order to think like that. But in terms of innovation or entrepreneurship and how it fits into the program, it is aligned through most of the courses, right? When you start to break down some of the courses, the entrepreneurial innovation, entrepreneurial mindset is there. And we also have our capstone project, which gives you an opportunity to work on a Ripen project, which is a corporate company, a real client with your team, and to do a consulting project. You also have the project that would come out of your 908, which is an opportunity to either go down your own path of building out your venture, or again, to do on your own business, as in your own employer and working with a project of them. Or it could be that you're finding a project yourself. So there's so many opportunities to mix and match and to make this your own customized, experiential, immersive learning journey that, coming in with the mindset that it's going to be kind of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I would kind of break that mold because it might be 1, 3, 5, 9, 8, 7, 3, and it bounces around. But at the end of it, you've got this collection of education across those three disciplines, which then you can decide with a coach or with an advisor what you want to do with that. So again, I'll go back to, don't think you have to make the decision coming into the program of the path you're going to go to, because my experience with that, and again, working in career development, with my other programs too, is those people who are coming in with a mindset of, I want to be a consultant, I want to be in entrepreneurship, I want to be entrepreneurial, and they stick to that, are often faced with a failure and a disappointment in themselves because they haven't achieved what they set out to do. So I would come in with an open mind and let the education guide your journey, along with a lot of support from the school.
Excellent. Thank you, JP. And just to touch on kind of a couple of questions that have come along. So if you have already an established venture and you're looking for either growing it, scaling it, we are absolutely catering for that part of the process as well. One big part of our final residential session is actually focused on that part. And if you work on that as part of your own, as I said, customized journey, obviously the toolkits that we provide will help you within that regard as well. So there was a couple of questions around, you know, an established venture or a venture that's currently a startup. How do I grow? How do I scale? Those are the topics we absolutely cover and provide a toolkit. So at the end of it, we build on an MMIE framework that runs you through that idea to launch process, but at the same time also helps you identify the tools and the needs, the tools that you will need to kind of run that roadmap scaling venture space as well. International students are absolutely welcome to apply. You do not need to be in Canada or in Kingston outside of the residential sessions. So 2 weeks in August, 1 week in December, 1 week end of April, early May. Those are the times you need to be present in Canada, in Kingston. However, you can complete the rest of the program anywhere in the world. Obviously, there are live Zoom sessions scheduled throughout the year, which would mean that there might be a bit of management in relation to time differences, but we don't discourage or encourage people to be in Kingston or in Canada to complete the program outside of the residential sessions. One important question addressed to Norman is coming from Aaron. So Norman, Aaron wants to know, how was your cultural transition both on social and corporate level when moving to Canada?
Yeah, so that's one of the, I think that's one of probably the most difficult processes, but also very easy depending on who you are and also your cultural background. I remember one of my challenges, even today, if you look at this Zoom call, is to speak when I'm looking at the camera. I like to count the stars, look left, but in Canada, they want you to speak when you're looking at people. There are some very few adjustments that people can do, but one of the things that really helped me along that process was to apologize or to make people aware that I'm new, that I am not familiar with some of the things or the expectations they might be having of me. People are very understanding. And so when I'm speaking to people and I'm not looking at the faces, or when I saw them, I did not smile that Canadian smile. Or when I pronounce a word and they don't get what I say, they feel free to ask me to repeat it. And they know that I'm learning, I'm ready to learn. There is room to make mistakes at my end, at their end, because if I close all the doors, then I'm not going to progress, I'm not going to learn, and they're also not going to have the opportunity to express themselves to me freely. So really trying to do what I can to open the barriers between me and the people that I work with. So adjusting is not really, really difficult, because Canada, by the way, I think one of the things I learned that I was not aware of was that actually Canada is a global village. Everywhere you are, like the way you saw 25 nationalities in your class, in many communities, in many cities, there are as many nationalities as probably as there are in this class. So, or in the people who are applying. So I think you should not really think so much about that, but you should be ready to come in and let people know that you are learning. They will give you the opportunity to learn and grow. And then from a corporate perspective, it's really not very different. It's almost the same. But one thing that I can say that I didn't know, nobody warned me, is that Canadians are very good at presentations. I used to look at PowerPoint presentations and go like, what? Where did you do that from? Even in my class, I used to look at PowerPoint and go like, you guys, do you work in PowerPoint at Microsoft? Or, you know, you look at the quality of presentation people do here, you just go like, wow, I want to be like that. And I used to ask them to coach me, to mentor me, to do me to tools and so on and so forth. So from a corporate perspective, it's not really that difficult. People are very understanding. People are very welcoming. Canadians are generally soft and sweet. So I have not had to do any crazy adjustments. I just kept being myself. But I tried also to kind of make people aware that I might do something they are not expecting because of my background. So they should be ready for it. And also for them, if something happens, I will be ready to kind of learn, adjust, and try to cope as I go.
Thank you, Norman. And then a follow-up question from Aaron, or a pre-question from Aaron, was whether the program has incubation module for ideas or existing business modules. So actually, the answer is yes and no. We don't do, as I said, we're not an incubator, we're not an accelerator. We, however, tap into the incubator ecosystems at Queen's to help you hatch those ideas if that's the direction you want to go. Our first half year of the program is focused on your discovery phase, where you work individually with your advisor on finding ideas, building projects up, identifying, getting all the know-how around how to incubate an idea, how to grow a business, how to launch a business, how to run a corporate innovation program. So per se, we're not an incubator. However, the way the program runs through their two project courses that we have, you are able to take the time to do the discovery of a particular idea, which would mean bounce ideas off of people, do market validation, explore different opportunities, see the competitive landscape, and identify what you want to pursue throughout the process. So maybe, Norman, you can talk a bit about how you went about with BizSkills as your MMIE project.
Yeah, so there was another question. Someone was asking if there are cases where people from the program have also partnered or formed partnerships and so on and so forth. I think the way I describe the program is your opportunity to explore yourself, learn new things about yourself, and reposition yourself. It's like a 12 months of grind to really help you to help you set up for whoever you want to become, or whichever career you want to transition into, or whichever company you want to start. One of the key things that I think as I was developing these skills, I learned was the faculty was ready. So like, let's take an example of like design thinking, for example. If I was working on a new probably project or a new initiative, and I wanted to see the unexpected probably consequences that could happen as a result of the good things that I want to do, because sometimes you are so focused on the positive side, but you are forgetting that even if you mean to do good, there could be casualties, or it could be bad activities, or you could do some bad, maybe like emissions to the world and harm the environment and so on and so forth. So I remember I went into Kim's office, and I tried to have a conversation with her on a system perspective, and on the units within the system, so she can help me kind of identify some of the blind spots that I'm not seeing. So even if it was on my own company, my own startup, she actually went ahead and worked out some things with me. So what I can say is that the faculty is flexible. You have the power to engage them. They used to have office hours, which I didn't know what I think open hours or office hours. I never used to know what it means. At the beginning, I spent 2 weeks looking at office hours. What do I do with these ones? Then someone told me, oh, that's the time you're supposed to go in and talk to your professor and so on and so forth. So initially I didn't know, because in Rwanda and elsewhere, wherever I had learned, this was new to me. So now when I knew what it means, now I used to book those sessions and go for them, come to advisors and so on and so forth. So the way the process is, you have the power to define and to direct that process the way you want. But you have to be ready to work hard, because if you own a business, you are developing a business, you are developing a product, you are validating the product, you have your assignments in MMIE, maybe you are doing your business or side hustle, you have another job that you're working on. So you have to be ready to be sleeping maybe 4 hours and feel okay. And the next day you wake up with positive energy and so on and so forth, so that the lack of hours, the few hours you are sleeping, they're still not affecting your productivity as a person and your mood and how you work and relate with people. So that 1 year for me, it was a year to push myself, to put myself in positions I've never found myself before. And I successfully did so. And so I can say that the power is in your hands. It's how you want to shape that journey, that process, that will define what you get out of the program.
Thank you, Norman. And I'll take it over to JP to talk a bit about, so the question was, somebody wants to work on the business plan in Canada. Will this program help me identify tools and skills to build that up? And followed on by, how many hours do we have to study on a weekly basis? So JP, your thoughts as an advisor on both of those two topics.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the, working on your business plan, absolutely. I think, through all of it takes you outside of the normal of what a business plan is, and it gives you all of the understanding behind each component. So whether, if I run quickly through what a business plan looks like, your macro industry assessment, your comparative analysis, the validation of the customer through primary research, to create the hypothesis there is a market there, to run through some of their operational capacities in terms of resources required, the digital platform model that's required, the legalities, financing, the operations, and then the financial expenses and revenues. All of those components are taught across the various courses. So not only educationally will you take away the understanding of what a business plan is, but you'll also have a deeper knowledge of what each component means. And yes, the support and the help from your coaching and advising team is there to walk you through each of those components. And of course, you can either do that as a side hustle, or you can tie it into some of your assignments. Should the alignment be there? A lot of the students I'm working with are working on their businesses and then tying it into an individual assignment on a particular course. It might be in sales and marketing. It could be in design think. It might be on, creating new ventures, but they find a way of actually applying some of the learning to deepen their knowledge. So business plan support is there. The one thing I go back to just before I go into the other question in terms of the number of hours is I want to touch upon the Incubator Accelerator. My personal view is incubators, accelerators are the sexy things. It's out there, and it creates this box where people can go and the resources are available. You've got mentors and advisors and coaches. You've got some programming. There's potential funding at the end of it, with a demo day, and you get put in front of the investment, et cetera. It gives you a wider access to maybe a market, a network, et cetera, et cetera. If you actually look at the formality of an incubator, and I know, Nusha, you said we're not an incubator program, and we're not, but the formality of what an incubator accelerator is, if you actually break it down, all of the components of an incubator accelerator informally are contained within MMIE, contained within Smith, and contained within Queen's. What we're asking you to do is sometimes we have to go fishing. Sometimes we can create our own customized incubator of the support that we require versus joining in a formal program and coming out and going, oh, that didn't actually give me what I was looking for. So keep that in mind as well. The incubators are one way, but just because we're not doesn't mean to say we don't have all of the resources a formal incubator has in order to support you through your program. In terms of the number of hours that required to study, I don't think there's a scientific answer to that. I think it depends on how committed you are and how dedicated you are. I talk a lot about time management to the students. I talk a lot about productivity levels. And of course, we're going to get a range of people. And this is where it differs. We get a range of people from, young students who are just coming out of undergrad or maybe 1 or 2 years experience, kind of no commitments, no partnerships, no kids, no house, etc., etc. And then all the way through to people who have maybe got, I was working with a particular MBA, and this is the alignment, but she had 6 kids and she was working through the program, but because she'd built the support ecosystem at home. So we've got all of the various ranges of personal challenges or personal commitments that have to be wrapped around the professional commitments and also the academic commitments. And I think, depending on what they are for each individual, you've got to be able to then work around those and assign yourself the study time that's appropriate. Now, what I would say is that you're blocking out at least, a couple of hours each day. So it accumulates. Obviously, you can build in more when time commits, but you should be on your modules and on your learning journey every single day. The people who fall behind are typically the ones who don't do anything. And then there's an assignment deadline come up and they try to cram it. And the problem with cramming it and not actually time blocking it into your schedule to know that you're now stepping into your academic world is that you don't know what's going to happen at the end of that week, because you're like, oh yeah, it's during the weekend, I can get it done on Friday, no problem. And then something comes along that derails that thought. It could be illness, it could be a personal challenge, it could be something, and suddenly you find yourself way behind the 8 ball. So I'd encourage you to time block if you can, couple of 2 to 3 hours a day, to really, focus in on the modules, focus through the learning journey, keep up with the deliverables in terms of the, the understanding of the content and how that applies. You will have teamwork in there as well, because you're assigned various teams for various projects. That takes, time to meet with them and to keep on edge of the deliverable. So really it's down to individual circumstance. But what I would say is time block each day. So you're committed and you're showing up and you're being present for that study time, and it'll make the journey a lot easier.
Thank you, JP. And that kind of ties into the question related to the online program and whether there are live sessions. So typically, the way the program runs, 2 weeks in August, you should see the dates for 2023. So MMIE 2023 with an August 22 start on our web page. It is usually the last 2 weeks in August, then the first or second week in December, and then last week of April or first week of May, depending on how it falls on a calendar year. And then typically there are weekly Q&A sessions with the professors. So they are scheduled in advance, usually from about 10 to 11 once a week on a day that the professor is available. So that schedule is done and given to you at the start of the program in August. And we do have monthly updates and master classes. This year, they run first Wednesday of the month from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. So there is time you will need to kind of dedicate to join on Zoom. All of the sessions are recorded in case you are not able to attend. But obviously with the Q&A sessions with the professors, that also means that you potentially are not able to ask your question. So the time schedule for residential sessions is available on the webpage for the next MMIE intake. And there has been a couple of funding opportunity questions. So for MMIE specifically, we have Catherine Bell Award, but all the kind of Masters of Management specific scholarships and bursaries, the information is available on the Queen's Awards and Scholarship webpage, so you can check everything out there. We are working on identifying potential future MMIE scholarships, but as it stands today, everything that you can find on the Awards and Scholarship webpage from Queen's is what is available. And then I have a question. Was the batch of 21-22 able to attend the campus session in person considering the pandemic? Oh, we had fun and we are continuing to have fun with that. So their first boot camp in August, end of August, was virtual. And we're a Masters of Management in Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which means we all work within the entrepreneurial mindset and huge flexibility. So that one was virtual. The one in December, we were able just to beat Omicron. So it finished just before the huge breakdowns and lockdowns happened. So that one was in person. And as it currently stands, the next one, end of April, is scheduled to be in person. However, that might change tomorrow. The MMIE 2021 cohort, however, so the 2020-21 year, that was fully virtual, unfortunately, due to the pandemic. But the adaptations around that, and Smith provides a variety of resources that enables us to still do residential sessions effectively, along with all the networking pieces, even during the pandemic. But we are hoping that our life goes back to normal, whatever that is, in the future years, and that we are able to host again in Kingston. So I think that is all of the questions that I have seen. I'm gonna hand it over to Norman to one last piece of advice for our future MMIEs.
Nisha, I saw a question. Someone was asking, I think, about if he is an international student, he can, I think, start a business and so on and so forth. I came in as an international student and I was able to do all that I wanted to do in the program, be it either at Queen's or from a Canadian perspective. But when it comes to owning a business from a federal incorporation perspective, a local, when you're setting up your startup or incorporating your company, you must, and you don't have PR, permanent residency, someone who has PR or who's Canadian must own about 25% shares of in whatever you're trying to incorporate. So that's the only thing that I saw that was kind of maybe a limitation, but there are ways around it. We did it through my classmates who are already Canadians or permanent residency holders. I think if I were to give an advice to someone about this program, I will ask them to do like a self-assessment of you as an individual, and look around you, look at the global entrepreneurship and innovation space, and look at what's happening. So if you look at governments, if you look at international organizations like the UN, World Bank, if you look at not-for-profit organizations, local or international, if you look at private sector, startups, existing companies of all sizes, the key things that make these organizations continue to exist and sustain their operations is the ability to innovate and to execute. And for me, no matter your background, no matter your experience, whether you have a lot of experience or you don't, take, for example, someone who understands one programming language, like from a software perspective. Or take an example, someone who has had like 3 years work experience in logistics in any country around the world, wherever you might be from. If you take those examples and then you come and do this program prepares you to fit. If you are that person who can code, many of the students I have been advising, for example, is try to position yourself as an innovator and entrepreneurial mindset person who can work between technical departments and functional departments. Like you can work between the team that does the software development or the technical part of the job that is being done in that organization, with the management, with the HR, with marketing, with sales, business development, and all of those types of departments. So these are very rare people to have in this world, and probably every company, every organization needs them. Look at someone who has just a simple experience in logistics. You can be a logistic or supply chain innovator in any country, any part of the world, any organization you choose to, just by adding up this degree because of the tools, the thinking process, and who you become. And that's why for me, I take these 12 years and 12 months as the opportunity to re-identify who I am as a person. So in the case now you, and then try to push limits and try to see what can I become and how can I get there with the services, the coaching, the faculty, your classmates. Who can I become with all these resources around me? What can I achieve in 12 months? If you come in with that mindset, I can guarantee you, I'm an example. I've set up a startup, it has not worked. The moment I decided to kill it, the next day I had a job. The opportunities are there if you're going for them and if you're open to them and if you're open to networking and learning and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes and correcting them. That's what I can say. So you are very welcome and we'll be here to support you. I live and work in Kingston. So if you have questions, you can jump on an email me, you can jump to JP, anyone in the program. I think it's a flexible team. So don't really hesitate or think twice. If you are on your way to joining the program, you are very welcome.
Excellent. Thank you, Norman. And there has been a request to put your email address into the chat for people to connect with you, if that is okay. So Jean-Michel, unfortunately, we are working on a full alumni list to be kind of publicized. We do have people on LinkedIn connected to MMIE. So if you search on LinkedIn, that is where you will be able to find, pardon me, the alumni there. But if you have specific interest to be connected with a specific profile of our alumni, we're happy to help there as well. And a really great question. We should have started with this. It's a 30 credit program. So 6 3-credit courses and 2 6-credit project courses. So metrics on MMIE employment. Ricard, I'm very proud to say MMIE 2021 are 96%. All of them are employed. I can't confirm, we haven't done that analysis just yet, whether that is all as a result of our MMIE, but I will be sure to share that data very soon as we have it. It does provide employment opportunities throughout, so a lot of our MMIEs design their career as they go through. And on that note, JP, your final words to our future MMIE students.
Thanks, Nisha, and thank you everybody for staying the course and listening. I think there's a lot of really great insights that will help you on the journey. And thank you, Sarah. Reach out anytime. I should put my email address in there. So if you've got any additional questions or thoughts, certainly the team here, Sarah, Nisha, Norman, and there's other people available, but happy to follow up on any questions you may have. But just to close out quickly is I'd go back to what Norman said. It starts with self-assessment and awareness of you. It really is, your life story is your leadership story. This is a decision you're making to change, to deepen your knowledge, to move into something brand new, or to continually deepen what you're currently doing. I think the opportunity here is that if you're have made the decision and you've taken the offer, continue down that path. I think you've made an incredible decision. If you're still on the fence, what I would suggest you do is to look at where you want to get to. Where do you want to be? What's your kind of vision for self? And that doesn't mean to say, in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that's far too long, to be quite frank. I think you've got the opportunity here to look at where do I want to be in the next 1 to 3 years? What does that want to look like? Because I think sometimes we get caught up in our career, whether it's as an entrepreneur, innovator, entrepreneur, or doing something else. Our career is actually, what we're about to move into. That's not. It's a role, and the roles make up your career. So you can have a career like mine where it's all over the map, but the experience and insight and knowledge I've got as a fundamental base is to everything I do now and in the future. So I think you've got to start to look at what do I want to be, self-assessment, self-reflection, understand what the alternatives are out there to MMIE. Please, I think you owe it to yourself to understand the alternatives. And if it fits in terms of where your vision is, and you understand what the gaps and the opportunities and some of the challenges may overcome, and MMIE fulfills that, then we look forward to really welcome you into the program. but start with an understanding of who you are right now and where you want to get to in the next 1 to 3 years. Be bold, be brave, keep believing in yourselves.
Thank you so much, JP. And Richard, just to answer your final question, we do have a Calgary MMIE alumni base. So just reach out, and if you can find them on LinkedIn, we will connect you to them. So Calgary as a base for MMIE, really nicely represented as well. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, JP and Norman, for sharing your experience with MMIE. If you have any questions whatsoever, if your additional questions pop up, or you want a clarification on anything else, please do get in touch. We're looking forward to welcoming you in August. It was a pleasure for everybody. Thanks again, JP, Norman, Sarah. We will see you next time.